Time with Shebrew Royalty features remedies for inner healing and outer beauty. Real-time conversations with sisters in the Hebrew Israelite community, focused on healing our spirit, mind, and body, which will contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. Sip a cup of tea, wear your favorite turban, tee, or tunic, and enjoy tea time with Shebrew Royalty. Sip a cup of tea. Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty features remedies for inner healing and outer beauty. Real-time conversations with sisters in the Hebrew Israelite community, focused on healing our spirit, mind, and body, which will contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. Sip a cup of tea, wear your favorite turban, tee, or tunic, and enjoy tea time with Shebrew Royalty.
All right, Shalawam, Shalawam, sisters, Shalawam, Shebrews. How are you today? Shalawam. Hello, good to see you. Good to see you. Let's see who is here. Who is here? Please, as you come in, do me a favor. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Let us know that you are here. Let us know that you're here. Come on in. We have a very, very important show scheduled today. So please come on in. As you do so, hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We really want to get this Royal Tea Party started on time. And yeah, so I am actually going to go ahead and get started. So as you come in, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe, and post a comment to let us know that you are here. But before I go any further, as usual, I always have to start off by giving a big shout out, a praise to the Almighty. I am that I am, the God of the Hebrews and the Shebrews. I am your hostess, Kuala Yakaka, and I humbly thank you for being on this broadcast today, for joining me for tea and for conversation. So thank you. Come on in. Come on in. I pray that each and every one of you had a blessed week. I pray that you had a blessed week. I know I did. I had an amazing week. So also, before going any further, let me get the disclaimers and all of the housekeeping stuff out of the way. Let me start off by saying what Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty is not. Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. We get it, we understand. However, if you happen upon this channel and you realize that you do not agree with our beliefs and our lifestyle, that's okay. I encourage you to keep searching YouTube, and I'm sure that you will find your perfect cup of tea and your perfect flavor. What I do ask is that you not leave any derogatory comments in the comments section, because that would be distasteful. So we would really appreciate that. And we thank you in advance, and we wish you well on your search. Also, although I am a medical provider And we will be touching on medical topics in many of our broadcasts, including the one tonight. What we will not be doing is utilizing this platform to diagnose or treat anyone's illnesses. If you are experiencing any medical problems whatsoever, please consult your healthcare practitioner. And the views that you will hear on this channel are those of myself, my guests, and even my viewers, and not the views of any particular church or organization. One more thing, if you would like to be a guest on Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty, please send me an email to shebrewroyaltybiz@gmail.com and include a brief description of your business, your product or service that you provide, or a topic that you would be interested in co-hosting. I would love to hear from you and brainstorm on how we can collaborate to help heal and strengthen Shebrews throughout the four corners of the world, which will ultimately contribute to the healing of our nation as a whole. So I'm going to put my email address on the scrolling ticker here. Let me get that up here for you on the banner. Email at shebrewroyaltybiz@gmail.com. Please send me an email with all of your information, and I will reach out to you so that we can collaborate and help to heal our nation. Also, I would like to introduce my sponsor, Orderly Fashion 144, where you can shop for custom trends, designs, accessories, and apparel for the dapper and chic. Visit www.orderlyfashion144.com today, and I will put their information up for you so you can have their email address and website. Please, when you order from the website, do not forget to include your discount. This is the Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty discount code. It is QALA, QALA 15, my name, QALA 15, to receive 15% off your purchases. Free shipping will also populate on orders of $70 or more. They are also looking for fashion models that will purchase from the website, submit a full body picture wearing whatever apparel it is that you purchased, and you can receive up to 35% off your orders and one free item a month. In order to do so, you must order at least 3 items monthly from the website. If you are interested, please reach out to info@orderlyfashion144.com. So I'll go ahead and take that down. Hopefully you've taken note of the email address and the website. Also, I would like to introduce you to My Guardian Doc, www.myguardiandoc.com, to sign up for healthcare coverage. Let me bring some information up on the screen so you can see exactly what My Guardian Doc is all about. For those of you that have health insurance or do not have health insurance, this is a pretty incredible plan. So I would like to share this with you. Give me just a second here. And here's some information about My Guardian Doc. It's compassionate medical guidance and world-class care at a low cost of $27 that everyone can afford. And here's some information. It says here, let My Guardian Doc support you through your health journey ahead. My Guardian Doc's vision is to enhance healthcare for everyone by providing compassionate medical guidance and world-class care to our subscribers around the clock, all for an affordable price of only $27 per month for the entire household. Our innovative approach combines technology, virtual medical guidance or direct care, subscription, medical bill negotiation, and a la carte payment models, which are made possible by the resolve of our management to offer a price that anyone can afford. Our ultimate goal is to make the healthcare system all that it can and should be for everyone. With my Guardian Doc at only $27, this is what you receive. Immediately lower your micromort count, which is a unit of risk defined as a 1 in a million chance of death and is a measurement based on your risk factors. Immediate access, improved health outcomes, low cost, fewer visits to the emergency room, increased lifespan, and peace of mind. And here's a lot more information. I encourage you to go when you check in on YouTube under this tonight's or last week's show. In the show description, if you scroll down, you will see all of the information on how to sign up and also a link to this website, myguardiandoc.com. Check it out. I am a subscriber. So if you haven't already done so, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We are about to get started. We are about to get this royalty party started. Let's see who's in the house here. Who is in the house? Let's see. Sister Carla, Shalawam Akwath, listening while in transit. So good to see you. Sister Jeanette, good to see you as well. Welcome. So, sisters, tonight, tell me, what is your cup of tea? What is your cup of tea tonight? Talk to me. Sister Paula, good to see you as well. Praise the Most High. Praise the Most High, Thawada. Thank you. Thank you. What is your cup of tea? My cup of tea tonight is rosemary tea. Rosemary tea. And as all of my teas, it's delicious. I want to show you my new cup. Look at my new teacup. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see. It says best Nana ever. So I got this from my grandbabies for a special day yesterday. And yeah, this was a little present for me. It says best Nana ever. And so I'm christening it today with my rosemary tea. So let's take a look at this video, which talks about 5 surprising rosemary tea benefits and potential side effects. Let's take a look at this short video. All right, give me just a second here. Where is my link to my tea? Give me just a second. Are you hearing that? I am hearing the video, but it is not. Here we go. Let's start over from the beginning. Give me just a second. Here we go. There it is. All right, here we go.
Top 5 surprising rosemary tea
Fair
benefits
use
and potential
for educational
side effects.
purposes only.
Rosemary herb belongs to the Lamiaceae family of plants alongside mint, sage, oregano, and basil, to mention but a few. It's one of the most widely recognized herbs and has a long history of culinary, aromatic, and medicinal uses. Many individuals enjoy rosemary tea because of its delicious flavor, sweet aroma, and myriad of health benefits. Today's video exposes some surprising health benefits of adding rosemary tea to your diet. We explore its potential side effects and drug interactions. You'll also be learning how to make and enjoy the delicious tea. So stay tuned, kindly hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and smash the notification bell so you never miss any of our content. This video is presented to you by Health and Wellness, your #1 health and wellness channel. Rosemary tea is extremely rich in terpenes, flavonoids, and phenolic acid. It also possesses antioxidant, antiseptic, detoxifying, and antibiotic effects, which are highly beneficial in treating numerous health issues. Rosemary is a perennial shrub, and its tea offers a delightful pine flavor and aromatic fragrance that is both rejuvenating and invigorating. Because it's also a popular garden plant, you can use rosemary leaves straight from your garden to brew tea. Let's look at the benefits of drinking rosemary tea. Number 1. Improves brain health and enhances memory. Drinking rosemary tea protects the brain by inhibiting the death of brain cells, subsequently slowing brain aging. It improves memory and is good for highly stressed conditions. The compounds found with rosemary tea stimulate proper blood circulation to the brain. Researchers also propose that rosemary may also aid in recovery from conditions that may lead to brain issues such as stroke. Number 2. Improves our mood and promotes sleep. A lot of individuals experience stress and anxiety from time to time. Rosemary tea may improve our mood by promoting the balance of healthy gut bacteria and inhibiting inflammation in the hippocampus, the section of the brain associated with emotions. It reduces stress levels and relaxes the mind and body, which consequently promotes healthy sleep. Number 3. Improve eye, skin, and hair health. The antioxidants found in rosemary tea, combined with its antibacterial properties, help to protect your eye and skin from the damage caused by free radicals. It also holds nutrients that stimulate and strengthen hair growth by improving blood circulation to the scalp. Number 4. Regulates blood sugar levels and promotes heart health. Rosemary tea holds compounds such as camphene, luteolin, and carnosol that aid in the regulation of blood sugar levels and promote heart health. It does this by slowing down the absorption of sugar and increasing insulin sensitivity. Number 5. Improve digestion. Individuals that struggle with digestive issues should incorporate rosemary tea into their diets. It stimulates the production of digestive juices and possesses antispasmodic properties that help relieve gas, bloating, and induces a healthy appetite. It also holds carnosic acid, a compound that helps balance the microflora and good bacteria in the gut. For making rosemary tea, it's best to make use of fresh leaves. This is because its most powerful health benefits are found within its naturally occurring oil, which is in higher concentrations in its fresh leaves. Although there's no generally defined limit, specialists recommend taking the tea for 3 months at a stretch and then at least 1 month break at each interval. All you need to make rosemary tea is hot water and your fresh, dried tea leaves. Add your leaves to a pot or kettle of hot boiling water and allow them to sit for 5 to 10 minutes while covered. Remove the leaves with a mesh strainer or sieve, and then you can pour the tea into a mug and enjoy. You can also add sweeteners such as honey or sugar, but this is optional. Although rosemary tea possesses these health benefits and uses, it's very important to be aware of its potential side effects and interactions with medications. Children under 5, pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, and individuals on anticoagulants, diuretics, lithium, and ACE inhibitors should remove the tea from their diet. This is because it may lead to frequent urination, low blood pressure, and an increased risk of seizure in epileptic individuals. Also, drinking too much might have a nauseating effect and cause vomiting. Therefore, do not abuse the tea. Always remember to consult your doctor before incorporating any tea into your diet. Let us recommend a powerful superfood that would be excellent for your all-around health. You need to check out lion's mane. It possesses similar health benefits to rosemary and much more. Don't know what lion's mane is? You can check out our other videos. Also, a link to view the product will be posted in the video description below. Drinking rosemary tea or simply inhaling its sweet aroma has proven beneficial to our mood and is said to drastically improve brain and eye health. It also aids in the prevention of oxidative damage caused by free radicals that can lead to various kinds of chronic diseases. Are you looking for how to get 100% organic rosemary, or have you tried it before? What did you think? Tell us about your experience. We would love to hear about the benefits of the powerful herb for you. That's it for now. Bye till next time.
Thank you to Health and Wellness for that very informative video about rosemary tea. Who knew all of that? Who knew that rosemary tea provided all of those health benefits? I've been drinking rosemary tea for quite some time, but honestly, I wasn't aware of all of the health benefits. I knew about the antioxidants, but I really didn't know about the stress. And so it's appropriate for tonight, right? Since we're about to delve into trauma, stress, and grief therapy. By the way, I'm also diffusing rosemary oil in my diffuser tonight. So I have rosemary oil, aroma, and I'm drinking the rosemary tea. So I'm rosemaried out today. Great, great tea. Who would have thought? Anyhow, let us move forward. If you haven't already done so, please once again hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Let us jump right in. As promised, December has been Mental Health Month on Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty. Every Sunday in the month of December, we have been focusing on issues concerning mental health. During the past 4 weeks, we talked about depression, anxiety, stress, mental health for our aging population, bipolar disorder, and social media's effects on mental health. Tonight is our 5th and final broadcast in the mental health series. We will conclude our discussion with a focus on trauma, stress, and grief therapy. So tonight, it is my distinct honor to introduce our special guest, Miss Kierra Banks, who happens to be a licensed marriage and family therapist. Let me bring Kierra in on the screen. Hi, Kierra, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I am doing quite well, from ice cream parlors to military intelligence and almost a decade of impactful trauma-focused psychotherapy. As the founder and CEO of Banks and Company Therapy, Kierra is reshaping lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth premier concierge therapy space. So it is so awesome to have you here tonight, Kierra. Welcome. It's such a pleasure to see you again. It's been a while.
Honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Who else would I have?
You're right.
In this space, right? Kierra and I go back a few years while we were co-workers at a mental health urgent care clinic in Sacramento, California. But who would have thought that we would both end up in Texas, of all places, right?
Right.
So,
and it was so interesting that we discussed like our similarities in being in Texas before meeting there in California. So that's so crazy.
Exactly. Plus, we have a lot more in common, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to introduce yourself and tell our guests about your background. The ice cream parlors, the military intelligence, and career in trauma-focused psychotherapy sounds like the making of a novel. So tell us about that. Tell us what that's about.
I'll share one day. So like you said, my work career or my first job was at an ice cream parlor, Brahms in Oklahoma. I love that job, but it gave me back pains at like 16 years old. So it was not the best job. When I was of age, I went into the military and did signals intelligence. I loved the job, loved it. But something pulled me towards, therapy and helping people. I'd probably say it was more of people just randomly coming and talking to me. I'm in, Walmart's checkout and somebody just starts telling me their life story. And I'm like, I just came here to buy milk. But I mean, I would have never thought, because my first love is numbers and science. So me
Wow.
being in intelligence was like the best. So I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life, on the outside of the military, of course. But my journey just really led me here, and I'm grateful for it.
Wow.
So I
Well,
don't have
I'm
anything deep. I didn't
grateful.
think I would be here. I couldn't see
I'm
it happening.
grateful for it as well. And we also share that background, that military background, right?
Right.
And I think the military really kind of shaped a lot of our upbringing. I went into the military very young, and 17 years old is when I joined the Army. And so going in there at that time, knowing that I wanted to be in the medical field, but not quite sure. Back then I was kind of bouncing between doctor and nurse and wasn't quite sure. So with the military, you get to kind of find yourself and
Mm-hmm.
find where you feel like you belong as far as career wise. And
Right.
so it sounds as though you thought that you found that, but
You
then after leaving, you really found your purpose.
Right. I mean, they tricked me into going into Intel, but luckily I loved it. I wanted to do medical field too, but
Mm,
they got me in basic training. So, but I'm grateful for the way things have panned out. I would have never known I would have loved the radar theory. Was not, you know, I did not have any prior knowledge to that field, before joining. So I'm
sure.
grateful for it.
So was there, I know you said, going to the grocery store or whatever, and people just strike up a conversation with you. And I can also relate to that, where people just start
Hmm.
you know, spilling their guts because they for whatever reason, they felt like this is a safe space.
Right.
And you gave off that energy, I guess, to allow people to feel safe. And so was there any particular point though in your life that you can look back, that you can say that really ignited your interest in becoming a psychotherapist?
I would say getting into psychology. My bachelor's is in psychology.
Mm,
So while I was in the military, I did like my starter courses, as many as I could while working. And then I finished my last 2 years when I got out. And I decided to take the psychology track, and I became heavily interested and invested in learning more about it. It resonated with me heavily. And so I think at that point, I started putting two to two together, or my brain thought it was a good idea to capitalize off of the fact that people feel open in talking to me. And I guess I had an aha moment. The light bulb went up and said, oh, maybe you're meant to do this. And so I was like, oh, because even after I got out, I was still looking, putting in job applications to continue the work I did on the outside.
okay.
Um, but it was in, doing my coursework in psychology, with a focus in psychology, that I really realized that this may be the path for me.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yes. So let's jump into the psychotherapy here. Let's talk about some of the types of psychotherapy, because I'm sure some of my guests, have heard about therapy, but they've probably lumped it. Oh, we lost you. We lost you, Kierra. I hope she can hear us. There we go. Let me add you back in. We lost you for a second there. It's okay. So yeah, I was saying, let's jump in. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Let's jump into the psychotherapy and
Okay.
talk about the different types, because I'm sure a lot of my guests have heard of psychotherapy, but not the different types, or knowing that there are all types of psychotherapy. So if you can, just give us a few of, or talk to us about what type of psychotherapy are out there.
Um, I guess if you're asking like the type of theories or
We can start there.
okay. So for me, I'm a narrative therapist. That's my theoretical lens, which is kind of like the overarching way of how I view things. It puts a lot of the work that I do into context. As a narrative therapist, I believe that the client is the expert of their lives.
Mhm.
And the spiel I give every single time is, I'm a narrative therapist. That believes that you are the expert of your life. This theory is client focused. And my job is to help you complete your goals in a safe and effective fashion. So immediately that puts a lot of the clients at ease because now I've begun the relationship with empowering them and helping them see that, hey, I know a lot more than I probably remember that I do or that I think I do. Um, with that being said, I also use some interventions and techniques that meld well with narrative therapy, such as solution focused therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, art therapy, which is really fun. And it's
Mhm.
amazing to see even my adult clients like really dive into like coloring or a
Mhm.
lot of the things. One of the major things that we like to do is doing vision boards and, as we process. But one of the more fun things to do is have my clients bring in their instruments. That's always a good time for everybody. But that intervention really puts the block down and helps them process in ways that are more natural to them. So a lot of the theories that I use are strength-based focused, client-centered, and empowering. I always tell them I don't like to reinvent the wheel. So what we're going to do is we're going to relearn you, and then we'll pick techniques and interventions that work best with your strength and really leverage that.
Perfect. I mean, that sounds ideal. And having worked with you, I've seen your work. I've talked to patients because we share the patients, right?
Yeah.
Me from the medical standpoint, you from the therapy standpoint. So you got to interact with my patients and vice versa.
Hmm.
So when you were doing therapy with the patients, I would actually see exactly what you're describing, because they come back and they seem to have more confidence. They're recognizing, I should say, their strengths, which a
Right.
lot of
Right.
times, because of life's challenges, especially traumas, you tend to kind of lose that.
Right. I
So
definitely
tell
agree.
tell us, what would you see, how does one end up seeing a therapist? Walk us through what the process looks like
I
before they
think
get to you.
I think for a lot of people it's different, and I've worked in different environments. So
Hmm.
how I would get the client or receive the client or the referral will look different. So
Hmm.
when I was working in a private practice incubator, it was more of either I was networking and marketing myself, or the private practice was, versus me working in a homeless youth shelter. That process will look different, or me working in a hospital or in a school. But in terms of private practice, which probably majority of the population will be, seeking services through that avenue, they would most likely contact or reach out to, let's say, a professional that they know, There are various online programs that they can get connected with. Even I know some people are discussing, getting tapped in or connected through church or religion avenues and things like that. So it can look different for a lot of different people. But a quick and easier way is to do a quick search online, Psychology Today, or Google practices near you.
Okay. Awesome. So they can do self-referrals or referral from a source like a doctor to see.
And luckily, therapy is less taboo. So there's a lot more avenues to get in touch with a professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So tell us, what are some of the important benefits of psychotherapy? I think you touched on it briefly there, but what would you say are the main benefits of someone coming to you or any of the therapists for your services?
I think it's empowerment, remembering, which is really big in the cultural narrative therapy. We're helping them remember who they are, whether that means helping them release things that don't serve them, or helping them reintegrate things that they never knew they liked, but they know that they like a certain, genre or portion of that. We also, in therapy, do practice skills building, at least from the theories that I operate out of. So you can hope to gain skills so that when you leave me, you'll be well equipped, when life lives. So we're empowering and strengthening not only mind, body, and spirit.
So helping them to utilize the tools that they have in the toolbox, because a lot of them do show up to you already with these tools, but really don't know how to use the tools that they have.
Exactly. And you know how life is. It'll throw a bunch of dirt on you. So it's our job as therapists to walk along the journey with our clients to help them move the dirt out of the way and show them their strengths, their skills, or help them find skills that really resonates with them. So now we're leveraging the strengths that we're identifying along the way.
Right. So some of them do have the skills, do have the tools, but others, you help them to find those tools. Sometimes it's through outside resources as well, right? How important is it to find the right therapist?
I think it's pivotal. It's like getting into a relationship.
Okay.
And I say that in the most professional and ethical way possible.
Right.
Don't date your therapist. Yeah, I have to say it, because even when they come into therapy, we give brochures, just in case somebody's had that run-in. But this is one of the most important relationships you'll have. And for a lot of people, this is the first time you'll have a healthy relationship. So you want to have a relationship with the therapist, or feel like you can have a relationship with your therapist that will model what it can look like communication wise or relationship wise, because you're practicing healthy boundaries along the way. So a lot of the relationship that we're building in the room is one that can be emulated outside of the safe space.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Do you believe that patients that are treated by therapists with the same ethnicity, spiritual or religious beliefs, and cultural background is a key factor in the patient's overall trust, willingness to open up and not feel judged, thereby leading to better outcomes and quicker recovery? Do you think that those factors play a role in that?
It can be. It depends on what the client is looking for. So if they're
Okay.
looking for those things, then they'll automatically, come in with their guards let down. But also it brings to mind the difference between cultural competency versus cultural humility. So the difference with cultural competency is having a rough idea how things work. So I'm African American, if you can't tell, but I would be culturally competent because I am African American, but cultural humility would tell me to actually sit down with someone who may look like me and dive into their beliefs and not assume that I know what their experience has been like, not assume their spiritual background, not assume what they would want in a family or what they would want relationship wise.
Okay.
So
Great.
I think
Mhm.
when therapists lean more into cultural humility, that broadens that field and that aspect of, how much a client can relate to someone that is not, Black or does not share the same religious beliefs or outlooks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, because I actually experienced that with one of my patients. And he flat out told me, he said, I don't want you as my doctor. I want a white male. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, no problem. The social worker that brought him in, she was taken aback and she started apologizing for him. And I said, no, he has a right
Mm-hmm.
to say that, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do any good for him to come and see me and he is not going to receive anything from me just because I
Right.
am not what he's looking for. So it is important for you to find him someone that he can connect with so that he can get better. At the end of the day, that's the outcome that we're looking for. And if I'm going to
Right.
be a barrier to that, then I'm not serving the patient well. And so
Yes.
I thanked him. I thanked him for being honest and open, and also for being a strong advocate for himself, because a lot of patients tend to not advocate for themselves because they're afraid of how they're going to be looked at by voicing, you're not
Yeah.
what I'm looking for.
I love that you brought that up because I was definitely thinking of that. Historically, I've worked with underserved, underrepresented populations, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times I have to, really tap into the advocacy part, and that's why I feel like empowering and empowerment is so important. Because, like, as you described, that man, he felt courageous enough or strong enough to voice his wants and desires and what he would
Mm-hmm.
feel healing will look like. A lot of the clients that come in, they're disenfranchised.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably the first person professionally that's came in and said, hey, you have the right to say, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I don't want to talk about this right now. Can we move on
Mm-hmm.
to X, Y, and Z? And I will give you informed consent, and we will go through each and every intervention before I do it because I want you to feel comfortable and
Comfortable.
know and
Mm-hmm.
become aware of what is going on. So I'm not only empowering, but I'm helping you build insight as we go along the way, and
Well
self-awareness.
said. Yeah, well said. Well said. So, with that being said, what are some of the barriers that you find or the roadblocks that prohibit people from even seeking therapy?
Okay. I'm gonna tread lightly, but the one that I see the most is culture.
Okay.
Um, More specifically, in working with our culture, I speak on this. We're more apt to focusing more on religion to heal some of the things than we do mental health and medical health. Now, I say that lightly because I understand there is aversion to medical health because there is historical medical mistrust. I understand the background with that. And then with mental health, it hasn't been a popular thing. Now it's more popular and it's trending, but that trend is on the downward spiral. You know, things can only trend for so long. But another barrier is the lack of us in the field. I think we represent like 2 to 3%. So we spoke about that trust factor before. So now not only am I not really trusting, am I seeing somebody that looks like me? Do I feel like somebody can relate to me a little bit more right off the bat? Are there certain things that I will have to explain or feel like I will be emotionally taxed having to explain, you know, during my treatment? And now I have to explain my trauma, and I have to explain how I see, or the jargon that I use is a lot of the barriers that I see. But then also financial limitations and things like that.
Sure. Being
Approximately.
uninsured.
Yeah.
Some people don't have insurance that covers psychotherapy. Fears because they've never gone to therapy before, and what they're envisioning is something totally different from what is actual.
Right.
Because those fears and the anxiety, for some people, they're dealing with anxiety, and just the fact that I'm already anxious and I'm going to meet somebody new, somebody that I don't know, and I have to spill all my guts and you know, tell them my entire history. That can cause a lot of fear.
Yes.
And we talked about the lack of trust, and also the belief that I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't need therapy. I'll figure this out.
Oh, I have to be strong.
Yes. Only weak
I can't
people
trust anyone. Yeah.
Right. Only weak people need therapy. Or, you know, previously I touched on one of my shows about the strong Black woman syndrome, and that stigma, and then there's the stigmas that go along as well with therapy. And I think this may sound odd, but I think that sometimes we also have a love-hate relationship with our health and wellness, because we want to get better, but we hate what we have to do in order to get better, right? It's like if I need to lose weight and I'm being told I have to eat a certain way or I have to exercise, we hate the process, but we want the outcome.
Right.
And we have to recognize that in order to get the outcome, you have to go through the process. So there's that love-hate relationship with the whole health and wellness dance that we have to do, right?
Right.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. And that's in and out of like a therapy or a medical clinic.
Exactly.
One of my favorite saying is free, but it'll cost you. Like it'll cost you to get to new places and new levels. It'll cost you losing old things. You want new, but then you want to cling to the old. It's like trying to receive a gift with both hands full. It's impossible. And then for a lot of the illnesses, whether they're mental or physical, they're the things that we're clinging to is the cause, the root cause, or it's the symptom of, you know, what we're trying to heal from, or what we're called to heal from, or what we want to heal from. So
exactly. So those are some really tough roadblocks to get past, right? So how can one overcome these obstacles?
In the mental health room, or
I would say in the mental health world.
Realistically, my clients, I don't see my clients let their guard down fully until a year in.
Wow.
So a year in is where they finally have the aha moment. Like I'll say something in the beginning and it'll go in one ear and out the other, or they'll blow me off, but that's because they're not ready to receive it yet. And so it's a dance. It's a year-long dance, and we're actively building and actively learning and exploring. And it's not until they come to the realization themselves that they need to change. So me in thinking, oh my gosh, I have the best intervention ever, and I'm discussing it, yeah, and they agree to it. Um, for it to go in one ear and out the other, it takes patience. But the truth is not taught, it's actualized. And for a lot of people, they can hear something, but until they feel it and it resonates, it won't happen. So I would say be patient with the process, because it's not what do they say? It's not a race, it's a journey. And that's most evident in therapy, because the first year we're just getting through everything that you need to touch on realistically. There are other models that are, that tend to the brief therapy models in the briefer therapy timeframes. But in the work that I do, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to sit with my clients a little bit longer.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I've seen that also on the medical side as well, not just the therapy side, on the medical side as well. It takes a long time to build that relationship and to build that trust. And I don't know how many patients on their very first visit with me, first question, are you going to leave me too? Are you going to abandon me? Because I know on the medical side, in a lot of the clinics that I've worked in, it's a revolving door with providers. Right. So the patient comes in, they have to sit with you for an hour plus, give you their whole life's history, come up with a treatment plan, only to come in the next month for follow-up, or the next week only to be told, oh, I'm sorry, such and such is no longer here. You're going to be seeing a new provider. And although everything is in the chart, or should be in the chart, that new provider have to do their due diligence and start from scratch.
Yes.
Right? Because you can't go just according to the notes that you read. You now have to really hear it yourself from the patient. So a lot of my patients had been going through that revolving door over and over and over again. So by the time they get to you, and then when you develop that relationship and they can finally let their guards down, a lot of times life happens and you have to move on.
Right.
And that is traumatic in itself for a patient, because it took them a while to get to where they're at. And then that kind of sets them back again to square one, because now they have to go all through that, developing that trust again with somebody else.
Right. In nonprofit work, I saw that the most. And it is very detrimental to the well-being of the client, because trust is a huge factor in working with professionals such as myself and you. And a big factor in how a client will be able to process the professional leaving is called the termination phase. And that's about 3 to 4 weeks for us alone. So having somebody leave without no answer, without no, closure, which I use that word like loosely, kind of like puts clients in an off-putting mindset. Like now, like you said, now I have to do this over again, and now I have to tell this whole story again, and now they're going to ask me a billion questions, and that is also a limitation and a roadblock.
Right, and then on top of that, the new provider may have a total different treatment plan, and so now not only are you seeing it, exactly. So yeah, this even the therapy in itself can cause some trauma.
Yeah.
So are patients encouraged to undergo a complete medical examination and blood work to rule out any coexisting medical conditions that can be contributing to their symptoms before or during their treatment with you?
It depends on the context. Like when you and I met, we met in a mental health urgent clinic. So, that was kind of ruled out as a part of the systems process. If they're coming in to see me in private practice, no, they don't have to do that. However, if they disclose to me some things that may cross the threshold of, more medical problem, we're going to address that first. Safety is always first when it comes to therapy. And so I would refer them out to their PCP so that we can work in tandem. So they won't have to stop therapy, but they'll most likely be sharing a consent, fill out a release of consent form so that me and the doctor can speak, or they and their doctor can speak to rule out any medical conditions.
Right. Yeah, because that's really important as well, because I've seen, and I mentioned it before in previous broadcasts about patients that were being treated for anxiety, and when they come to see me, I'm always doing the blood work. First thing when I see my patients, especially because in my role, I was prescribing medications and so on. So we want to make sure that the medications that are being prescribed are for the right reasons, right? And doing lab work and finding out that someone has a thyroid problem, and it's not really anxiety, it's hyperthyroidism, or it's not really depression, it's hypothyroidism, or even women going through menopause and their hormones are off, right? And teenagers, their hormones are off as well. And my male patients, so many of my male patients were coming in and with anxiety and depression, and these were younger men, but when I tested their testosterone levels were pretty low. And so, ruling those things out rather than going months or even years into a treatment that's not working and wondering why isn't this working when we're really not getting to the root of the problem. So, and for myself, even before referring my patients, if I feel that, okay, this is the point where we need to get you in to see a therapist, by the time they see the therapist, I've already ruled all of that out anyway, before getting to the therapist.
Yeah. Beautiful. It takes an interdisciplinary team sometimes. And a lot of times when clients come into therapy, I'm their first stop. So it takes some coercing to get them to the point to where they're going to go see their PCP. But I think you made really valid points, because sometimes mental health can be the precursor, or it could be the symptom of a medical thing going on.
Absolutely. So let's talk about trauma. So many of us have been holding on to past traumas, to hurts, resentment, offenses, and even unforgiveness. And because of this chronic state of holding on to stuff that we should let go, our spiritual, mental, emotional, physical health, and our relationships are being affected negatively. So let's talk a little bit about trauma. I have an article here that shows it's a childhood trauma article, because a lot of patients that we see in adulthood, when you get a thorough history, you'll realize that a lot of the issues that they're dealing with, even in adulthood, started in childhood. Not saying all, but a large number of them started in childhood and were never resolved at that point. So I just wanted to take wanted us to take a look at some of the things that, some of the traumas that present in childhood. Let me get that on the screen here. And this is by the National Child Traumatic Stress Network.
Really
And
good resource.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this article is pretty in depth. So we're not going to delve, because as you can see, look at this. Look at all of the different types of trauma that we're dealing with here. So there's bullying, community violence, complex trauma. And complex trauma is described as both children's exposure to multiple traumatic events, often of an invasive interpersonal nature, and a wide-ranging long-term effects of this exposure. So this isn't a one-time event, right? This is long-term effects. So natural disasters. This includes hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, wildfires, tsunamis, and floods. And lately we've been having a lot of these, right?
Yes.
As well as extreme weather events such as blizzards, droughts, extreme heat, and windstorms. A lot of times this is not even considered, that these disasters, how they affect children. How do they affect children when they have to move into a shelter, when there's a hurricane or an earthquake? And then there's early childhood trauma. Generally relates to traumatic experiences that occur to children 0 to 6 years old. Intimate partner violence. So intimate partner violence, also referred to as domestic violence, occurs when an individual purposely causes harm or threatens the risk of harm to any past or current partner or spouse. So a lot of children witness this as well. So that's traumatic for the child. Then there's medical trauma. Pediatric medical traumatic stress refers to a set of psychological and physiological responses of children and their families to single or multiple medical events. So when children are hospitalized, when children have surgeries and have been diagnosed with, it can be chronic illnesses, that causes medical trauma. And then there's physical abuse. Physical abuse occurs when a parent or caregiver commits an act that results in physical injury to a child or an adolescent. And there's refugee trauma. Many refugees, especially children, have experienced trauma related to war or persecution that may affect their mental and physical health long after the events have occurred. And I remember going over this in a previous broadcast, and this was during the time when, I don't know, I'm sure you remember when we had all of those children that were coming across the border, and they were, we were told allegedly that these children were being held in cages, and everything that was where the children ended up, we don't know. And so how many of these children have received any therapy, any treatment for the traumas that occurred during that time? Then there's sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse is any interaction between a child and an adult or another child in which the child is used for the sexual stimulation of the perpetrator or an observer. So we know about a lot of that now. And then the trafficking, right, involves the giving or receiving of anything of value, money, shelter, food, clothing, drugs, etc., to any person in exchange for a sex act with someone under the age of 18. And terrorism and violence, that's another one. And then traumatic grief. While many children adjust well after a death, other children have ongoing difficulties that interfere with everyday life and make it difficult to recall positive memories of their loved ones. So these are just some of the traumas that occur in childhood that, if not treated, can really impact someone in their adult life.
Right.
Do you see children in your practice?
Not anymore,
Not
but
anymore.
there
Okay.
was a time where I saw exclusively my demographic was exclusively children. And one of the I'm glad that you brought that website out, because one of the um, self-reported assessments that I used was called the ACE study. And the ACE study is a self-report assessment that tracks childhood trauma. So some of the things that you mentioned, and then gives a score. And they say at a certain, if you have 4, let's say you have 4 of those marked, you're most likely to have this disease, or the percentage of having this disease is higher. So one of the things that I would love to really, really reinforce is the idea that mental health is physical health. From this study, they found that when people have a certain amount of these, self-reported incidents, they also will have 20 to 30 years later, they will have certain diseases. So it's not if they'll have it, it is which one they'll have those types of diseases. Without addressing those childhood issues, those childhood traumas or experiences, it manifests not only into them having, social interaction, problems with social interactions, relationships, but also with mental health and physical health.
And many of these patients are not only do they grow up to be chronic mental health patients, but also substance abusers. So that's adding a whole other layer on top of the mental health. Now you're having substance abuse issues, drugs and alcohol.
Maladaptive coping mechanism for sure. And it's a form of escapism that they're trying to cope. So they have the skills, but the way that they're doing it is maladaptive. And most of the time is because they don't have, a professional they can reach out to, or they don't have the ability to tap into resources like that on their own.
Right. So it's so important to address these issues, especially those that occur in early childhood, because imagine, because those people also tend to be chronic victims as well.
Repeatedly,
because they develop that victim mindset, because they started off feeling helpless. Right? I should have been protected at this time in my life, and I wasn't protected. And now they have that whole victim mindset, which attracts them to more perpetrators. And the vicious cycle continues.
Right. A way I like to explain to my clients, because we do a lot of psychoeducation, so that they can have these terms and know what things look like and how to use them, put them into context in their everyday lives. But a lot of times when I describe certain cycles, we start with the family. So people come in for individual therapy, but most of the time they need family therapy. Absolutely. We know that does not happen, but most likely it will not happen. But a lot of time what you'll see is the child has had to correct or overcorrect their way of thinking and behaving throughout those traumatic experiences. And so this is a portion of their character development. They become that character until they're able to break that cycle by healing and then coming into therapy. But without coming into therapy or having resources, being able to run across consistent education about what they have experienced, a lot of people think that is their norm. Because if you grow up with it, like, well, my family talks like this, or this is how we do this, and this is what we eat, and this is what we do. And a lot of times you'll see the dysfunction not only in that person, but it is a system of the dysfunction, and they only played a specific role in that system of dysfunction.
Right.
So that is their character, but until they realize that that character is not serving them, then we're unable to break it.
And with that being said, many times when they do attend therapy, and if it's not, like you said, in a family setting, the whole family setting, that person that is trying to break away from the dysfunction, the other members of the family now make them feel like an outcast. Who do you think you are? You think you're better than us now because you're going to therapy? And so now they have that other layer, right? Now they're an outcast from the family where they were, where this was their quote unquote safe place. And now it's no longer that.
Yeah, and let's use that word safe place very loosely, because a lot of times
Right.
they
Quote
were in therapy
unquote.
because it
Exactly.
wasn't safe for them. But I'm gonna try not to be too long-winded with this, because I love explaining this to my clients. A lot of times they're not even outcasted. The system will try to pull them back in. So if you look at the family as like a computer system, everybody has a role to play to keep the computer running. So that person stops operating, as it should. The system will attempt to correct it, view it as a virus, kill it, and
Right.
then the system will function appropriately. So we talk about a lot of the things we discuss is, the baseline. How does the family operate on the baseline? Which we call homeostasis. So we discuss homeostasis, and we use these words every time it comes up. We make sure so that when they come in, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing a positive feedback loop. And would you believe that I told my mom I needed some space, and she started agitating me and poking me and doing all these things. And she was like, yeah, that was a positive feedback loop. I'm like, you see what's happening, right? She's trying to pull you back down to homeostasis. So now when you're in therapy, you're not only, like, the clients aren't only learning new coping skills, but they're being educated so that not only they're helping themselves, but a lot of times I have moms come in. So they're also helping their children, and they're using these terms with their children and introducing their kids to these coping skills.
That's wonderful. That's great. And I know when you see that, that's like, wow.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So one of my clients is like, would you believe my daughter told me, not right now, mommy, I'm going into my safe space. And I'm like, yes, I love that for her. I love it. The baby is telling you, hold on, I need you to honor my healthy boundaries. Let me get some time. Yes. So, yeah.
That's great. That's real positive feedback.
It is. But like you said, it takes the work of that one individual, and then those, having those boundaries so they won't get sucked back into that negative feedback or stuck back into homeostasis, the norm of dysfunction.
Right. So PTSD and other trauma-related illnesses, from a psychotherapy standpoint, it sounds like, how would you describe, is it different from other types of therapy when you're dealing strictly with trauma and PTSD related illnesses? Or would you say that the psychotherapy is the same across the board? Or do you do certain things a little different?
So the model that would be most appropriate for the client depends on the diagnosis. And so, like, if you're a therapist that, let's say, is trauma focused, then you'll see PTSD, clients that suffer from PTSD, anxiety, depression, complex trauma, or perpetual trauma, or complex PTSD. You'll see a lot of these, and that'll be like your homeostasis, your norm. But if they have something like borderline personality, or a personality disorder, and that's not your jam, you might want to refer out. So treatment will look different depending on the diagnosis. For myself, it's normal to see clients with those types of disorders.
Okay. So let's talk about stress.
Okay.
What are some of the causes? And we had a show, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that focused on stress. So I'm not going to delve too deep in that. If you're watching the show and you're interested in learning more about stress, please go back to our show. Like I said, it was about 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, in regards to stress, and take a look at that. But what would you say are some of the causes of stress when a patient comes into you and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm stressed"? What are you seeing as far as the cause? What's bringing them in there?
It's been different. It's been different, and it's depended on where I am. I deal a lot with trauma. So like the list of traumatic experiences a child could experience, it would be those things. And then we have perpetual stress. You also discussed the over resilience of, a Black woman, being a strong Black woman, or even being a strong woman. There's a lot of stressors that come with that, depending on whether it's social or spiritual, physical. There's a lot of stressors that happen with that. So there's not one that I see that is common. It just depends on if I'm at a school or if I'm at a homeless shelter or where am I at. That'll really tell me what my demographic will be, what the culture of the clientele I'll be serving.
Okay.
But everyday stressors for somebody who is not coming in, I would just say, look at America.
Absolutely.
That is one broad sweep that we all can really relate to.
There's just so much.
Yes, pre-COVID, I think around 2016, there was a study out that said 85% of Americans self-reported as having anxiety and being anxious. This was pre-COVID, so I can't even imagine what it looks like now. And then with all these things that are occurring over the world, what those percentages and averages look like today.
Wow.
But no, I know we discussed
financial.
Yes,
right? We're talking financial. We're talking about poor health.
Right.
Post-COVID
exactly.
Well, right?
And even PTSD, like a lot of people associate PTSD exclusively with war veterans.
No.
Or military. But anybody who has experienced any one of those things you listed could have PTSD.
Right.
Anybody who turns on a news channel or looks on Facebook and they have these videos, these crazy videos that can, have vicarious PTSD.
Right.
So mental health is a huge concern for our culture here.
And it's becoming broader.
Yes.
And more problematic. I mean, poor health, living in impoverished conditions, joblessness, or
inflation.
You may have a job, but living paycheck to paycheck, the stress, trying to stretch a dollar. The dollar doesn't stretch as wide as it used to.
Right.
A while ago, right? Relationship problems, overworked, underpaid, single parenting. There's so many factors involved with stress. So narrowing it down, the goal would be to actually find the source of the stress, right? And correct that. What does that look like? How successful, because so many people are in conditions that they see no way out. So how do you get them to help them? Let me rephrase that. How do you help them to get to a place where they can cope better with the stress while still working on correcting the problem? Because most of these problems are not overnight fixes.
I say, realistically, everybody needs therapy. A lot of us are living, I'm not joking. I have a therapist. I attend therapy, but we're living under a dark cloud of like trauma concerning, medical issues such as COVID. There's always a new something happening.
Right.
So even if we don't think about it subconsciously, it affects us. It's something that we have experienced worldwide. It was a pandemic, so that's something that some people should process, and it would probably help them have a better outcome with the stress that is to come, because life's right. But if you're not in therapy, I would suggest therapy. Once in therapy, I mean, therapy is only as effective as you make it, right? And so I would really just tap in and really focus on what you're doing there. Gain the skills that you need. I know you said toolbox earlier, but hopefully you find a therapist that helps you really enrich and, fill your toolbox up to help you deal with things once you leave therapy, and to help you as you are processing the things inside. I find that therapy is most effective when clients not only go to therapy, but they're also practicing their skills in between sessions. The clients that I've seen the biggest turnaround was those who were, dedicated to the process. It's not something that you should expect to, go into one session and be like, oh my gosh, I have 5 skills. No, it's skills building. And we don't expect you to remember to do it the first time or the second time or the third time. It's a process.
Right.
But as long as to, use your skills, or you remember that you use your skill that you have skills in the first place, that's the first step. But in working with, building coping skills, I think it's important that people get into therapy, be mindful of the environment that they're in, because that can build a lot of stress. But then also surround yourself with support.
That's key. That's important, right? Yeah. And we live in this world now where everything is instant gratification. And so if in a week or 2 things haven't turned around, it's like, well, this isn't working. This is not working. I'm going to quit because this isn't working.
Right.
And I know I hear that on the medical side. So I know that you're hearing that also on the therapy side.
Right. And unfortunately, what's been sensationalized is the pulp culture of mental health. So you will have, I guess, this broad scope of shallow therapy jargon thrown out there, or therapy tools thrown out there, and then people use them and they don't work and they don't understand. And then they say therapy doesn't work. And it's like, no, you need a professional. You need someone to help sit with you and help you process what you're dealing with, and learn how to appropriately apply those tools. But like you said, that plays a major role in people's ability to sit with themselves or sit with the issue.
And do the work.
And because it takes time.
Be willing to really show up for themselves and do the work.
Yeah, social media is shortening our attention span as we speak. Thank you, TikTok.
And I am not on, this is the only social media platform that I'm on. This is all that I can handle.
Yeah.
Even YouTube in itself is a lot. I couldn't imagine trying to deal with YouTube and TikTok and Snapchat and what are the other ones? Facebook and Instagram.
Instagram. And there's
And
some other ones
that in
too.
itself is just, that's stress.
Mm-hmm.
Who has time for all of that?
Yeah.
It-
So
it's,
it's like being tapped into the news station 24/7. That's what
right.
I equate it to.
Right. So a lot of people, if they will only do one thing, which is to eliminate one or two of their social media accounts and start journaling how they feel after that, I'm quite sure that they would recognize that just that small change reduces their stress level.
Yeah, their stress levels, their anxiety, their increases their self-esteem because now you're not comparing yourself. Their shame, their guilt, like social media is a different beast.
It's a whole other animal.
Yeah.
Right.
But if they don't delete it, definitely, allot time for it. Don't use all your free time scrolling and
But once again,
submerging yourself.
a
Yeah.
lot of people are developing addictions,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's a whole other topic that at some point we're going to delve into that as well, the addictions. Because when you think about addiction, you're thinking mainly of drugs and alcohol. But now we're social media addiction.
Anything that it releases serotonin and dopamine can be, addicting.
Like gambling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now at your fingertips, you've got this, and you can't seem to put it down.
Yeah.
And so now we're developing all of these new disorders that years ago we didn't have. We had addiction, yes, but to certain things. But now even children are developing addictions.
Yeah, I've seen this article a couple of years ago where it talked about how people are developing this phantom vibration or phantom buzz. Like, when you get a text message, your phone buzz. When you get a notification or a push notification, your phone buzzes. And so what they're seeing is a phenomena in this. I can't remember the exact term, but it's a phantom buzzing where people feel like they're feeling the buzz of a notification, but they aren't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have all of the facts on it because it's been a while since I read it, but that's interesting. This, that
That
this
is
new
interesting.
phenomena is popping up. Yeah.
That is interesting. And even these little contraptions here are also causing more health issues, medical issues,
Yeah.
musculoskeletal issues because of the constant this,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's no longer not just the carpal tunnel from typing, but now issues with the thumb,
Mm-hmm.
the muscles of the forearm, nerve issues because of these little things right here. So that's, like we said, that's a whole other issue. Let's talk about grief. Let's go into grief. Since we've not had a show strictly on grief, let's just take a minute to talk about grief, how it presents. And I'm going to pull up a quick article here, and it's from WebMD on grief. Let's look at let's talk about grief for a little bit here before jumping into the treatment. So this is from WebMD, and this is about grief and depression. So it says here, and this is a 4-minute read, when you lose someone or something dear to you, it's natural to feel pain and grief. The grief process is normal, and most people go through it. But when grief takes over your life and you begin to feel hopeless, helpless, and worthless, then it's time to talk to your doctor about telling the difference between normal grief and depression. So what is grief? Grief is a natural response to death or loss. The grieving process is an opportunity to appropriately mourn a loss and then heal. The process is helped when you acknowledge grief, find support, and allow time for grief to work. Each year, between 5% and 9% of the population loses a close family member. But that's not the only kind of loss that can cause grief. People can feel loss when they become separated from a loved one, they lose a job, position, or income, a pet dies or runs away, kids leave home, they have a major change in life, such as getting a divorce, moving, or retiring. While we all feel grief and loss, and each of us is unique in the ways we cope with our feelings, some people have healthy coping skills. They're able to feel grief without losing sight of their daily responsibilities. Other people don't have the coping skills or support they need. That hinders the grieving process. How do we react to grief and loss? There are specific stages of grief. They reflect common reactions people have as they try to make sense of a loss. An important part of the healing process is feeling and accepting the emotions that come as a result of the loss. Denial and numbness and shock. Numbness is a normal reaction to a death or loss and should never be confused with not caring. This stage of grief helps protect us from experiencing the intensity of the loss. It can be useful when we have to take some action, such as planning a funeral, notifying relatives, or reviewing important papers. As we move through the experience and slowly acknowledge its impact, the initial denial and disbelief fades. Bargaining, that's the next stage. This stage of grief may be marked as persistent thoughts about what could have been done to prevent the death or loss. Some people become obsessed with thinking about specific ways things could have been done differently to save the person's life or prevent the loss. If this stage of grief isn't dealt with and resolved, the person may live with intense feelings of guilt or anger that can interfere with the healing process. Depression. In this stage, we begin to realize and feel the true extent of the death or loss. Common signs of depression in this stage includes trouble sleeping, poor appetite, fatigue, lack of energy, and crying spells. We may also have self-pity and feel lonely, isolated, empty, lost, and anxious. Anger. This stage is common. It usually happens when we feel helpless and powerless. Anger can stem from a feeling of abandonment because of a death or loss. Sometimes we're angry at a higher power and at doctors who cared for a lost loved one or towards life in general. And then there's acceptance. In time, we can come to terms with all the emotions and feelings we experienced when the death or loss happened. Healing can begin once the loss becomes integrated into our set of life experiences. Throughout our lives, we may return to some of the earliest stages of grief, such as depression or anger, because there are no rules or time limit to the grieving process. Everyone's healing process will be different. What can we get in the way of the healing process? Some things can impede or slow down the healing process following a death or loss. They include avoiding emotions, compulsive behaviors, minimizing feelings, overworking on the job, misusing drugs, alcohol, or other substances as a way to deal with emotional discomfort. What things might help resolve grief? Acknowledge and accept both positive and negative feelings. Allow plenty of time to experience thoughts and feelings. Confide in a trusted person about the loss. Express feelings openly or write journal entries about them. Find bereavement groups in which there are other people who've had similar losses. What can I do if my grief doesn't go away? If grief continues and causes a prolonged and deep depression with physical symptoms such as poor sleep, loss of appetite, weight loss, and even thoughts of suicide, you may have a condition known as complicated bereavement. Talk with your doctor as soon as possible. Sometimes a major depression can develop along with the normal feelings of loss or sadness linked with grief, whereas normal sadness as part of a grief reaction may subside after several months. Major depression is a medical disorder that is different from normal grief, can occur at any time, even in the immediate aftermath of a death or of loss, and requires treatment to be resolved.
Great article.
Thank you. Yes, it is. So talk to me about when you see a patient that is in, because by the time they come to see you, it's no longer, I believe, it's no longer the normal grieving process. They're now at the stage of depression or anxiety, and it's now become a chronic condition more than something that was acute.
Just a disclaimer. I am working on getting more a more in-depth educational or psychoeducational standpoint about grief. Now, I deal with grief sporadically, not enough to really, say I'm an expert at it. So most of the time when they're coming to see me, it's about the depression associated with the grief. Or the anxiety or PTSD, depending how things happened.
Okay.
So working with the clients that I have worked with, it was back to the cultural humility standpoint. It was working with the depression, but then also meeting them where they are, understanding what death looks like for them, understanding how they interpret death spiritually, and then connecting with them through that standpoint, because spirituality is a major healing proponent for people. I don't care what you're coming in for. So a lot of times we will discuss spirituality in the therapeutic room. So what has worked for my clients is working both, like I said, with the diagnosis, but then with them on a human level. And helping them understand, not helping them understand, us helping each other understand how we can best navigate this portion of their life, and having them be okay with sitting with what's going on. Like your article stated, the first step is acceptance. And if you look at any recovery model for, let's say drugs, I wouldn't say the recovery model is the same, but the first step is most likely acceptance. I do DBT work, and a lot of DBT and mindfulness is a major part of that, not a lot, a major part of that is the acceptance portion, because that's where you're able to make a change. Right. Are you able to sit with what is, not what you hope it to be, not what you think it is? Are you able to sit with what is? If you're able to sit with what is, we're able to hash out what you're comfortable with, what ails you, what kicks up those symptoms of anxiety and depression, what bothers you the most. Then we can say, how can we change this for you? Right. What direction are we going to go? So grief work looks different depending on the person. Therapy in general looks different. It has a different flavor depending on the person. But we're really tapping into spiritual beliefs heavily, and spirituality heavily.
That's key.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
That is key. At when we talk about the mind, body, and spirit always comes first, because wherever your spirit goes, everything else follows, right?
Yeah. And it's also a resilience factor that we need. So we were talking about like some of the symptoms people face after grief, and that may be because the resilience factor is low. Do they have something to believe in? Is there somebody, do they have support? Do they have a mental health professional in their lives? So the intensity of grief depends on the amount of resilience a person has.
Mm-hmm. And people who have that sense of God, the higher power, tend to, and I've seen this throughout my years of practice dealing with patients from all backgrounds, all walks of life. They tend to have the ability to more let go, to let
Mm-hmm.
go easier
Mm-hmm.
than others that don't.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to let go and know that it's in God's hands, that person is in God's hands, and to accept what is now, not what used to be.
Yeah.
And I've seen many patients who, like I said, come from all walks of life, but those that do not have that sense of God tend to hold on to anger and resentment for a lot longer. That's been my experience.
Yeah, mine too. When you don't have anything to hold on to, of course you're going to hold on to something else, right? You're
Right.
going to gravitate towards something else. So, faith, whatever it looks like for you, is something that a lot of the therapists that I train with or have worked with really recommend somebody having something. I'm so sorry, my baby. I don't know what she's doing. Faith is something that we recognize to be a huge, a major support factor for people.
Absolutely. So, what about support groups and group therapy? I
Hey, I'm
See,
sorry.
no. Your baby is like me. It's my
I
turn. It's my
know.
turn. Yeah, I refer my patients to group therapy, or should I say,
Mhm.
I used to, since I'm no longer practicing. But group therapy and support groups a lot, just because to be able to find others that can relate or that you can relate to and be able to talk about the commonality of what you're going through with others. I think that's key as well. So you're not feeling alone, like I'm the only one who's ever experienced this or is going through this. So I'm a huge proponent for support groups and group therapy.
I believe it's a great support, especially for clients who aren't ready for the intimate, the intimate relationship of one-on-one therapy.
Mhm.
Group therapy can help people like ease into, therapeutic relationships or ease into the idea of therapy because it's not just a share everything about you, which is kind of like the most daunting idea of therapy. Now I have to talk about X, Y, and Z. Now we're going to discuss everything, and I'm not ready to. So I suggest people go to group therapy first if they feel like individual may be too intimidating for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you know when a patient no longer needs your help? When is it? How do you know when it's time to discontinue treatment? What does that look like?
When clients initially come in, we develop a treatment plan. So
Mhm.
we have a set of goals that, the client wants to reach, and then, I may throw in some additional goals if they agree that I feel like will be appropriate to help them reach where they want to reach. Um, if I'm seeing that the client has reached all of their goals or a majority of their goals, we'll start up the discussion, about what termination treatment looks like. But then we'll also talk about, what that journey looks like itself. What before we get to the termination phase, we'll talk
Mhm.
about what it will look like as we navigate closer towards the termination phase. But then we'll talk about, you know, some apprehensions the client may have, any pros and cons that they can see about it, or any pros and cons that I can see as well. So it's a discussion. And termination is not just a, okay, this is our last session, but it's a it's a 3 to 4 week process where you're processing what the journey has been like. You're talking about what resources they have in place, discussing the skills that they have, just to crystallize the things that they have learned. So it's a celebratory stage in therapy, but it's also a sad one, because this is a relationship that you've built with someone. So termination, I would say termination could look like you deciding, hey, before we get to the state determination phase, let's drop, if we're seeing each other weekly, let's do bi-weekly. Okay, you feel like you don't need to see me bi-weekly, let's tap in once a month. And then at that point, we'll discuss, I think, you know, we need to move to the termination stage when we feel like it's most importantly. The most important factor about that is it's never a drop off. It's never just a boom, I think you're ready to go, bye. It's really
a taper. It's a taper, a weaning off process.
Right. But then you're also checking in with the client to see how they feel. Do you feel confident? Sometimes they'll say no because they want to stay. They feel like they need to work on additional things. And that could be appropriate depending on if they're insurance based or not. But the client may say they have another goal they want to reach. And then if that is it, then you'll discuss the frequency of therapy. But yeah, it's a process.
But sometimes do you think it becomes a crutch?
It can be. If you can see the client is malingering, or AKA, you know, malingering, AKA creating make-believe symptoms, or over exaggerating symptoms, you're like, okay, that's something to process right there.
Having problems letting go.
Yeah, that's a major. Yeah,
that's major. So, yes. Yeah. For instance, you know, I have a neck condition. I've been seeing a chiropractor for many years, right? So my treatment frequencies have waxed and waned, right? Based on my symptoms throughout the years. But I keep up with my treatments on a maintenance level. And once again, it depends on my symptoms. I can sometimes go for a month, or I used to be able to go for a month at a time, or even longer. But then if something happens and then there's a flare up, right? Then I have to, my frequencies change. My frequency changes. So, but I keep up with it because this helps me to function better. Is there after your patient is discharged, are they discharged with maybe a maintenance plan? Like, okay, if something happens, you can come back on a monthly basis, or is that discussed? A maintenance plan?
It definitely is. My goal as a therapist is to be a tool that you can build off of, but you don't need lifelong services for. When it comes to them, let's say, discontinuing services with me, they know that they can always come back. Let's say things become unmanageable. But by the time they leave, my hopes is that they have a toolbox. And we've cushioned that toolbox well enough for them to feel confident enough, have built a secure attachment for themselves and within themselves, so that they have this courage and strength and belief that they can overcome what's to come.
Okay.
because life happens. Now, I'm not saying, I'm just going to kick them out and say, don't come back. You got to go home, but you're not, I'm not saying that, but I am saying, hey, I think you're okay. I think you're okay. And I think you'll be okay without me.
Right.
So save your money. And just in case you need to come back, I'll be here.
And I think that in itself is enough to know that if I need you, you're there. You're here for me.
Right. Like I mentioned, a secure attachment. Most people don't have secure attachments because of XYZ when they were young. Hopefully we can create one in therapy where the client is confident enough to leave and confident within themselves enough to know that they can handle life on their own.
Right.
I think that should be the main function of therapy.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't be the crutch.
Absolutely. And I think that when they realize that not only do they have the tools now, they're actually able to utilize those tools.
Right. Right.
That's huge. That's a great accomplishment.
And
so
that's
this
why
was good. Go ahead.
It was. No, I was just going to say, that's why I mentioned to get the most out of therapy, learn your skills, but also practice them in between sessions so that by the time you leave, this is not a foreign concept. And it's not what was that one treatment we talked about? When you leave, you should be able to write down every, intervention, at least with me. You should be able to write down every intervention or terminology that we've used because we've used them and discussed them extensively. Exactly.
Yeah, so it becomes natural now. It becomes a normal part of your life.
The new norm. It is the new norm.
Right. That's the goal. That's the goal. This has been incredible. So I'm wondering if any of our viewers have any questions for you. So let's see some of the comments real quick here. So Sister Carla says, oh my goodness, I'm so here for this conversation. Being dedicated to the process is key. Practicing what is learned in session is so important. Yes. Faith and practice are key, in my opinion, for success. Yes. And she said, I was just going to ask if that would be a crutch. So we answered that. Oh yeah, this has been wonderful. Can you think of anything else that you want to let the viewers know and when it comes to therapy? And
yes,
any final words for them?
Transparency is strength. That's what true strength looks like. If you're able, if you're able to discuss and work on what you're going through, because you're only discussing it, hopefully, to work through them, then that is strength. A lot of people aren't strong enough to actually work through their issues or their problems. But the first step is transparency. I
agree. That's good. That's good. And just walking through the door or scheduling an appointment, that's huge.
Yes.
To even get to the point to even schedule an appointment.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they should be commended for that. It's been such a pleasure, Kierra, to see you again and to spend this time. I've got to make it out to Dallas, Fort Worth area. Come out there and see you. We can have tea, really have tea together.
Of course, I love it.
It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, blessing us with your knowledge and the gifts that the Most High have given you.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much. I truly love and appreciate you for who you are and for what you do. I'm so thankful. And we have to get you back on the show really soon, right?
Definitely,
we have to get you back.
Definitely.
So thank you again. I know you have another engagement and so you have to leave. But once again, I thank you so much. and we'll be talking and
Okay.
planning your next visit on the show.
I'm here for it. We have to.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye.
I love you, and we'll be talking soon.
Love you too. Later.
Bye, Kierra. Oh my goodness. Wasn't that amazing? Wasn't that amazing? Isn't she awesome? Isn't she incredible? Yes, transparency is strength. Yes, it takes a lot of strength to be transparent, to be honest, open, right? So tell me, what did you all think of Kierra? She's an incredible therapist. She really is. And I'm so glad that she was able to come on this show tonight. So I hope that you found this information that was presented tonight useful. I hope that you found it useful. Sister Paula says, we really enjoyed you. Hope to see you on the show again. The water so much for this. I am rewatching for sure. All praises to the Most High. I know it was a lot. So yes, I encourage you to come to rewatch this video. And of course, if you have any specific questions, either for myself or Kierra, send me an email to shebrewroyaltybiz@gmail.com and we will get back to you. I will make sure that she gets your questions and get them answered. So just give a huge thank you and a huge shout out to Miss Banks, Kierra, for being here tonight. It was such a pleasure. So as we well know, tonight was the last Sunday in December. So we're over Mental Health Month. So if you've not seen the previous videos for this month, the previous broadcast, I encourage you to go back and watch our mental health series from this month. I am still trying to decide January's theme. I am thinking that it's going to be something along the lines of health and wellness. Not from the mental health standpoint, but from the physical standpoint. So starting next Sunday, we will start and tentatively, it's going to be our health and wellness month. Tentatively. I'm really thinking that's what we're going to delve into next month. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm not quite sure what the topic is going to be, but know that it's going to be informative. It's going to be fun. And be sure to be here. Remember, Tea Time with Shebrew Royalty is open to women that want to be and do better physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So that's what we're here to do, is to help each other navigate this thing called life from not only a physical and emotional standpoint, but mentally and spiritually as well. We are to let our light shine so others can be led to the source of the light. Sister Carla says, so knowledgeable. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She is absolutely that. Yes, let's get on that treadmill, eat the right foods, and endure. Absolutely. Health and wellness. Health and wellness next month. That's going to be the theme. So now, Shebrew Royalties, this is where the tea party ends for tonight. Be sure to tune in next week for our weekly tea party, same time, same T channel. Sister Carla says, such a great series, Aqua. The water, so much for all your knowledge. The water, sis. And Ayandabar. I praise the Most High. Praise the Most High. None of this is possible without him. So I thank him for his Son and for the Holy Spirit that gives us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Thank you so much. And she speaks the realness when it comes to our people. That's right, Sister Paula. Can we do a follow-up on journaling? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. We will do that next week, the Most High willing, Sister Carla. We can do a follow-up on journaling next week. Yes. And because we are going to journal through our health and wellness journey as well. So yes, the water for the reminder. So thank you all so much. I love you and always appreciate you taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to have tea and conversation with me. Know that I'm praying for you. I'm praying for us. Until the Most High brings us back together again, be blessed, my sisters. Be blessed. Be blessed. I am your hostess, Kwala Yakaka, a voice of reasoning and justice. Have a blessed and peaceful and restful night and an amazing, amazing week. And if it's the Most High's will, we will be back here next week to do it all over again. Love you all. Shalawam.